Hello, everybody. My name is Thom Brown, and I'm an elder in the United Methodist Church. And joining me here today is my close friend, partner, and colleague,
Reverend Craig Taylor, and I am also an elder in the United Methodist Church. And we come to you today as part of the Imagining Kentucky Methodism video series examining what it means to stay United Methodist. Now, you may have seen some of the other videos that have been put out, and normally it's just a person talking to you with an interviewer on the other end, but Tom and myself have a little devotional series, webinar, whatever we want to call it, that we do each week, examining biblical subjects and kind of holding each other accountable and having a little fun. So we figured, why not do that together today for a little bit different set of videos. So you may see us changing angles a little bit. It's by design, and so hopefully we can take you along this journey as we examine what it means to stay United Methodist.
We're going for a 60 minutes style of interview, and so you'll see we'll cut to different angles. Please stay with us. We encourage you to stick around as we're a part of this this conversation. So let me get started. First, Craig, I want to ask you.
He's so formal, by the way. Did you notice that? He cut from camera to person. Love him.
It's the years of experience in professional theater. Just as you have years of experience in professional audio video, I have years of experience in professional theater.
So our skills are so complementary.
They are complementary, not complementarian. But anyway, let's start. So Craig, tell me a little bit. Why do you stay United Methodist?
Well, a little background.
Sure.
You probably already know this, but I am a cradle United Methodist, much like yourself.
Okay.
I think you've already had a video about how much cradling you've had in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. Tons.
And so I believe you met your wife at the Wesleyan Foundation. Our stories are complementary in that way. I also am a cradle United Methodist. My father was a Baptist. My mother was a Presbyterian. So as it goes, out popped a Methodist as they joined a church that they could join in equally with. And so I was baptized as an infant. I was raised in 4 different United Methodist churches as we moved around and got poured out into by all of them. And so when it came time for confirmation, I had to take my vows of membership for myself and claim that authority of God in my life personally, not just as someone for me. And I'm so thankful for the blessing the church has been in my development, and that I continue to pour out on all the children that come through the doors of the churches I pastor, because that's amazing. To have a system of churches that interact and cooperate. You know, even within a denominational setting, it's not always a given. And not that the Methodist Church does it perfectly. But that's how I get to be where I am today, is because of the Methodist Church. And so I find my call to ministry in the Wesleyan Foundation at Murray State, and eventually meet my wife, and she joins me in my call to ministry, because it really is a joint endeavor. You don't do these things alone. So I come today from a background that has been more traditional in United Methodist beliefs, but I love the tent of the United Methodist Church allowing exploration within that. And so I come to this place where we're talking today. I've just received ordination in the United Methodist Church, and Tom here is hopefully close, right?
Well, next year in Jerusalem. That's the plan.
That wasn't wood.
There's probably wood elements to the cardboard.
It's composite.
So
it's complementary.
Yeah, next year in Jerusalem, yes. I'll be ordained. Yep.
But I get to this place because of that exploration that's happened within my life. And I did not always have the view of affirming the inclusion of individuals apart from the ones that I deemed worthy within the church. It was a mission experience in seminary where I was at a housing, intentional housing development in Memphis that had 5 men in it that were working for an impoverished community to help redevelop and give intentionality back to it. And 2 of the individuals were homosexual. And every day and every week that I was there, I kept thinking, God can't be in this situation. And through the experiences we had together, each week or day, I kept having an experience that said, well, it seems like the Spirit, but surely God can't be working in them or through them. And by the end of that summer, my views, while not completely changed, had been radically opened to the knowledge, much as Peter does, that God can work through whoever God wills. Who are we to deny the baptism to those who have experienced the Spirit of God, as Peter says? And so that was very much the verse that impacted me after that experience, is how much of a roadblock have I been? So that's where I get to I am today. in the Methodist Church. It's a long, winding road of development, but I point to that summer as a really inflective point in creating my sense of understanding of how we can be a United Methodist Church together. And yes, we know United is from the Evangelical United Brethren, but I really do feel for the future we can claim that identity in newer purpose as we go forward. Thom, I know you've spoken a little bit already about how you've gotten to be United Methodist, but why do you want to stay United Methodist as we go forward?
Well, I think I've answered questions similar to this.
Reframe it.
Go. Yeah, I'll
ask
reframe
a different
it,
question.
Well, between this and the Board of Ordained Ministry and
you get a lot of questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions. So, for me, staying United Methodist is about claiming my home. This is something that's really near and dear to my heart, particularly as an Eastern Kentuckian. The sense of home is so powerful. Even though I live in Louisville now, I still claim Eastern Kentucky as my home. It's where I'm from. It's my people. The same thing is true for the Methodist Church. It's my home. It's my people. It's where I'm from. And so, for me, I stay because I firmly believe that there is something valuable, immensely valuable in the history and tradition of the Methodist Church. I look at, in fact, this Sunday, we preached on the same text, but we have different approaches to it. I jumped back to the story of the formation of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and how that moment of exclusion brought about this partner church that has been a part of our history and denomination for so long. And I pulled it back to Wesley and then the American Revolution, when Wesley firmly believed that these American colonists who had been separated from the Anglican Church needed to be included in the life of the church, and so ordained Francis Asbury, who went and ordained preachers. And so there's a history there. You can look back through the history of the Methodist Church and find all of these moments where our people saw a missional need, saw something needed to be done, and got involved, or created something out of that. That's the Methodist Church that I'm a part of. That's my history, and so I don't take that lightly. And so when we talk about staying in the Methodist Church, what I'm talking about is staying a part of this denomination, of this tradition that has so impacted me and been a part of the history of the world for the last 200 years.
There was a particular point at which you said, after I asked the question, staying United Methodist, that you talked about the value and the power of the church. And I think maybe we can reframe that question a little bit.
Okay.
As we're wont to do in our discussions on Facebook and YouTube.
Bring it on.
Instead of, because that's many times the important word is how do we stay United Methodist? The value and the power of what is present before us. Because the United Methodist Church is such a force for good in the world. And not just in the world, of a witness of Christ's love in the world for the restoration of it. And so we have value of what is, but knowing that I've just finished the process of ordination, that you're fully within the process, coming towards the end of ordination, the question that gets asked of us, and you can affirm or not this statement, is, why become United Methodist? Because we're actively choosing to enter into whatever this is right now that we're going through. And so when I hear that question, what my response generally is this is what I'm claiming. I'm claiming something for the future. Yes, I value what is, and I value what has brought us to this point. But I don't think the United Methodist Church is done being a witness for good in the world. And for me, what I would respond to staying United Methodist in that sense, all this comes from your statement of value and power, so thank you, Thom. When I'm saying that statement, I want to stay United Methodist, I want to stay in this connection together for what we can do beyond this moment.
Yeah.
Because just like our agencies and our boards and our missions and our witness compound when we're together, I think of the work that inclusion within the church can do as a compounding force for good for God's kingdom. When we can get past, or at least work within the bounds of an issue together and continue to go forward, I'm so excited for what's going to happen. I love what we have historically, and I value, just as you do, the powerful witness of the church. But I don't want to stay exactly where we are. God hasn't called us to stay exactly the same. If so, we'd be stuck 2,000 years ago with the early church. And so I see such a bright future, and I want to be a part of that, because that work of inclusion is going to compound so many of our witnesses, of our works of discipleship, of our engagements with multicultural and multifaceted individuals that are going to be a part of this church. And I want to be a part of that. So I say that, and I say I'm claiming that future, not just staying with what is.
So let me take the ping pong ball back and shoot it back at you with this. Yeah. Okay. So what you've talked about is the evolution of the Methodist Church. What is the Methodist Church going to look like? And so to kind of give you another moment, what do you think the evolution of the church is going to look like? What is the church of 20 years going to look like, hopefully, in your mind?
I can answer that with this statement. Many times, people will unintentionally talk about the church that was, wishing to go back to some form or place or time that has been in existence. And what they don't realize is that I wasn't alive when that church existed. Have you ever had that experience?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
It is not that there's not value in what they're speaking about, but I literally have no frame of reference unless I watch a historical documentary for how the church was. Not that it's not valuable or informative to where the church should be today. So when we talk about where the church is in 10, 20 years, that's all I've ever thought about. Since, I'll out myself here, I'm 31 years old. So I've been in ministry since I was in my early 20s. And so most of that has been in a time of formation or in a time of preparation for ordination as I go forward. So constantly we're thinking about the structure that is. And as we know, the structure it isn't quite adequate for what we have today. And so my hope for the future, looking forward 10, 20 years, if we look at the work of inclusion in the church, is that we have a much broader range of effectiveness in reaching individuals. And I think that looks like, I know we talked about this before, the parish model of church, that we rethink how we actually engage a community. Is it just, one church engages just these people, or can we truly come deeper into that model of connectionalism, where we understand that we operate fully as a community? So if there's 2 or 3 churches in the community, we bind together in that work of ministry as a unit, each with our own identity. But models of ministry that look like that, or working in ways with individuals who we don't have like-mindedness with, seeing how we can put forward the stories and the works of individuals that, while we don't necessarily agree wholeheartedly with, because this issue doesn't go away overnight. And so the hope for the future is, how can we work in the midst of difference? That's my hopefulness, because when you see an argument go really well, on a show or something like that, you're like, wow, they argued really well. Like they didn't come out with a bloodbath or
a bloodbath?
Bloodbath, or at each other's throats. They ended and they don't necessarily agree, but they've come to a new term of understanding of each other. That's some of my hope for the future of the United Methodist Church. But what about you?
So I'm gonna piggyback on yours, because I think you made some great comments there. Looking at pastoral ministry models, I think, is really key, because we're talking about how we're deploying our trained, ordained, the professional element of this. But I think in order to accomplish that goal, in order for that to be a usable model, we have to rethink the unleashing of our lay people. And I so many times in my ministry, I have been in churches, or I've been working with churches that have been so pastor-centric. The pastor does everything is about the pastor. And oftentimes that leads to lay people feeling they don't have power in their own ministry, that they are just here to be involved on Sundays, they don't have to do anything else, or that they don't have the right to do anything else because the pastor's just taken it all. I think for me, the claim I want to hold on to, and the view I want to have of ministry, is that we can unleash our lay folks. that the power and gifting of the people in our pews can be set loose. And just like the day of Pentecost, when the fire came down upon the disciples, like there was this movement, this upswell, this groundswell movement of folks who went out and shared the good news. And you had the apostles, but you also had thousands of other folks who were invested in making the life of the church into something beautiful and grand and sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. I think the world right now is in such need of the gracious message of Jesus Christ. So often, Christianity is equated with, authoritarianism. It's equated with exclusivity. It's equated with this legalistic, rule-bound view of our relationship with God. But the God that I meet in Scripture, the God that I have met in my own walk with Christ, is gracious and loving. And so much of the Wesleyan tradition is about God's grace. We come to the table here to receive the grace of God, because God reaches out of God's self and meets us there. I think the world is in so much need of grace, the gracious God that we as Wesleyans know. And they won't meet that gracious God with me as the pastor being the sole communicator, because I am the professional. The unleashing of our lay folks with their spiritual gifts, with their capacities, that's where I see the church going. Not least because elders are fewer and far between nowadays. But the other component of that is our lay folks are starting to learn that they have as much capacity for ministry, if not more, than we do. And
can I claim that church?
That's fine. You go ahead.
I want to claim that one as well. That's an awesome one.
So I'll point to my own home church. My home church growing up, it was very pastor centric. But in the years that I've been gone, I've been able to keep a part of their story and to see how they have unleashed themselves as laypersons, and to see the ministry that they are able to accomplish, even without a pastor leading them, has been phenomenal. And I see that.
I think that's the word I've been looking for, Tom.
Yeah.
Unleashed.
Yeah.
I want to see a church unleashed.
There you go.
It's not that we don't have structures, rules, or governing bodies, but it
boards
feels,
and all that stuff.
It feels like we've been poised for so much that we've never unleashed ourselves to do. And when we can fully come into that moment of inclusion within the church, where people can actually witness someone like themselves within the body of the church. I never thought I'd see myself in the church, but I can see the grace and gifts of someone acting right there. When we can get to that point, beyond general conference, beyond whatever may come in the future, and retain this beautiful work that is United Methodism, I feel that's going to be a church unleashed. And that's why I'm United Methodist. I think that's the perfect word.
There you go.
Is we're not a part of just one church. We're not a part of just one community. We're not holed up in just one entity. The purpose is the world is my parish, as Wesley says. We are unleashed. We are unleashed beyond these bounds that we currently found ourselves in. That was so huge in the historical Methodist Church as it came to America. It was huge as the church spread across the globe. And I think that's going to be what carries us forward, is this unleashing of the work of the church.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a common saying, my job is to make my job obsolete. Yes. if I can make my job obsolete, I'll be happy. Yeah. Let the lay people lead the church. They're, that's my philosophy.
They're gifted and called just as the rest of us.
Well, I think we've probably run over time.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably need to do something else today, but thank you for joining us and being a part of this conversation. I'm sure this was different, but if you liked it, let us know. Maybe we'll get other people to do similar things in the future of these videos. Yeah. But that's why we're staying United Methodist. That's what we're claiming for the future, and hopefully you have similar stories as well of what you can claim for the staying of United Methodism.
And I'm gonna cowboy this a little bit and say, if you have a story let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
If you want to share your story, we are always looking for people who are willing to communicate why they stay United Methodist, what they hope the Methodist Church will look like. And so if you want to be a part of this, put it in the comments section so that we can communicate with you, we can get you on board. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today, and we pray God's blessings upon each and every one of you.